Welcome to Commander Pop Culture, a place to gather magical information, with some laughs might I add. Hello everyone, welcome to the next spoiler video for Caverns of Ixalan. The spoilers I'll be covering are from today and yesterday. Let's get right into it. Abuelo's Awakening. You get to return an artifact or non-aura enchantment from your graveyard to the battlefield. The X clause, you add a bunch of +1/+1 counters because it gets turned into a 1/1 Spirit with flying. You don't see a lot of these returning spells to play. It's either one or the other, enchantments or artifacts. This one can effectively hit both. I imagine a lot of people will be playing this for just the 4 mana and not paying X into it. A 1/1 is pretty fragile. It'll be like Abuelo here. Just something that could evaporate into the wind. Anim Pakal the Thousandth Moon?
More words.
It's a 3-drop. I don't know. There's a lot of competition in the Boros token theme, but it seems like a pretty sweet deal. Your goal is to make one thing with a lot of counters piled on it, and then make a ton of gnomes. Seems easy enough. The nice part about this trigger is you put the counter on first, and then make the gnomes. Hulking Raptor, or 2/5/3. At the beginning of your main phase, make 2 green. It's on a scary body. It's kind of like Magus of the Vineyard, only it only affects yourself. Unlike Magus, it's cheaper but gives everyone the 2 mana and has lousy stats. Archaeomancer's map is getting a full art treatment. The beauty of this card is it lets you ramp any land into play. Although on ETB, you search for 2 basic planes. The second half of this, it's like a fair version of burgeoning. I don't see this run often. I'm pretty excited to see it though, because you can't get a copy on Magic Online. It'd be nice in my collection. Wave Goodbye, I get it. It's, instead of waving, there's a tidal wave with little critters on it. Return each creature without a +1/+1 counter on it to its owner's hand. That's pretty sick. If you're playing a +1/+1 counter theme deck, you'll want this, and you're in blue. I like one-sided board wipes that you could play around or build around synergistic-wise. Tributary Instructor has Mentor. Whenever a creature control with a +1/+1 counter on it dies, draw a card. It's pretty darn good. I like when Mentor is on an already big creature. He's a 4/4, so that's a reasonable thing to have Mentor on. Most of the time when you see Mentor, it's on like a 1/2 or a 2/2, and you have to make it bigger by some other means to get that trigger. But I think most of the time this is turned on, and drawing when something of yours dies is always a good thing. Card advantage is the king of the game, at least in EDH. Topography Tracker enters the battlefield, create a map token. Your creature control would explore, instead explores, then explores again. Oh, in case you're confused, instead is a replacement effect. So I think when people see this, they'll be like, oh, I explore 3 times. No, it's replacing the explore trigger, so it happens twice. So you'd only have it occur 2 times, not 3 times. Singer Swift Rivers may cast Merfolk so as if they had flash. It seems like giving things flash, the CMC has to be 3. If you're in a Merfolk deck, doesn't seem like a bad deal, and since it has flash itself, you could protect a creature with that shield counter. Ripples of Potential proliferate. Choose any number of permanents you control at a counter on them this way. Those permanents phase out. I like phasing out because you don't lose any of your progress that you had on them, so it makes sense why it's in the Merfolk deck. We've already looked at a bunch of cards that put counters on your stuff. Phasing out's like the ultimate protection. Mist Dancer, 5-drop, Merfolk get +1/+0 and flying, and it also has Encore for 7. I like Encore. You get a token copy for each opponent. You get a combat where you can attack with 3 of them. They affect each other, so in that scenario, instead get +2/+0, sack on end step. Deeproot Historian. Merfolk and Druid cards in your graveyard have Retrace. I thought they were going to give up supporting Druid. I read on Reddit that was something that's gonna happen.
How long is this gonna last?
I guess these will be the last few cards that have Druid printed on them. Retrace lets you recast things from your graveyard by discarding lands. So that's a really nice ability on a creature. Lands in your hand are essentially dead cards at a certain point. You get to put them to use. Bygone Marvels. Descend 8. If you meet the requirement, copy the spell twice, and then you get to return a permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. I love cards like this. I play one in particular that has Entwine for 2 mana, and it lets you return your commander to your hand and return a permanent from your graveyard to your hand. I like the flex of it. This is just too good to kind of pass up. Like, on resolution, if you have Descend 8 online, you get to return 3 things, because you're copying it twice, meaning there's the original still in the stack. And at its worst, you get 1 thing back for 2 mana. That's not a bad deal. In that scenario, it's just a more narrow version of Regrowth. If you're playing Regrowth, you should probably play Bygone Marvels. Zolotaic, I think I said that right. Smiling Flood. On ETB and attack, you put a flood counter on something, and that flood counter turns that land into an island. Ooh, and then on your end step, you get to untap each permanent you control with a counter on it. We recently got support like this from the Doctor Who set. The commander from the Teamer deck also untaps your things if it had a counter on it, and now we get a Salamander Serpent that does the same thing. Guess you could turn your own stuff into islands and untap them. This isn't an addition, so it's not like Spreading Seas when you turn a land into an island and it's forever an island. You're not losing anything. Raffleraptors. 5 mana, 5/5 with trample. Whenever a dino you control is dealt damage, deals that much damage to any target that isn't a dinosaur. So it's basically a blanket enrage effect. Sunfurl Imitator. When it attacks, you may have it become a copy of another target dino you control, except its name is Sunfurl Imitator. It has this ability. Well, if you have a really scary dinosaur in play, you get to have 2 of them, essentially, with this. I guess the other beauty of this card is, unlike traditional clones, when they ETB, you can't change them. This lets you change whenever. It's not an end step ability either. And it's also a May trigger. So if you copy something sweet, don't have to leave that creature. You have the choice to. Really flexible card. Scion of Calamity has Myriad. I feel like Myriad's one of the most broken mechanics in Commander. It deals damage to a player, destroy target artifact, enchantment that player controls. If this thing had evasiveness like Trample, this would probably be too good of a card. I had to make it a little fair, I guess. I'll probably throw this in my cube. Progenitor's Icon. I'm not excited about 3 mana rocks. And you're paying 1 more, essentially, so you can give something flash.
Sorry, you're just not good enough.
Fall from Rubble. Choose a creature type, being your end step. Return a creature of the chosen type from your graveyard to the battlefield with a finality count. I love things that return things to play. It's not a huge tempo loss, and like the finality counter, it's like, who cares? You're still forcing your opponents to have to deal with something twice, so you want it in a tribal deck. And it happens the turn you play Exercers on the end step, so that's kind of significant. You don't have to wait a full revolution on upkeep like Quartered Arden Veil. Dino Egg has evolved. When it dies, you may discover X, where X is its toughness. So even as a 0/3, you're gonna discover at least 3. That's kind of neat. And then it has evolved, so you only have to be bigger in either power or toughness. And since its power is 0, you could probably start racking stuff up on this reasonably. Curious Altasaur. 4 mana Vigilance Reach. Whenever a dino you control deals damage to a player, draw a card. It's a Toski for dinosaurs, only it's not indestructible. If I'm in a creature heavy deck, I jam as many Toski, Oran Frostfang, or Coastal Piracy effects as I can, because they're really explosive cards. Bronzebeak Foragers enters for each opponent exile to 1 target non-land permanent player controls. Till it leaves play, it's like a Grasp of Fate. For X and white, put target card with mana ability X that's exile away into the graveyard, you gain X life. Okay, so you have a mana sink that permanently deals with the thing you exiled. So if someone kills this, they're not going to get the thing you took away from them. I kind of appreciate that. That's like the one drawback of Grasp of Fate, is like you put people under the thumb, and as soon as the thumb goes away, the floodgates open up, and I've lost games the turn that like something comes back from underneath one of those. Waita, Trainer Prodigy. Haste. 1/5 for 3 mana, that's pretty sick. For 3 mana, target creature you control fights another creature. It costs 2 less if it targets 2 creatures you control. Okay, so you're trying to enable the enrage mechanic on your stuff. And then for creature you control dealt damage causes a triggered ability to trigger. It triggers an additional time. There's just a couple of scary things you could do with that. I like that you could use this offensively and kill your opponent's stuff, or you could use it on your own things, which is probably offensive. I've seen my fair share of scary enrage triggers. The dream is you don't accidentally kill one of your own pieces, because then that's kind of a feel bad. You'll want to play things with big butts, or find a way to give your stuff indestructible. I'd probably play Brash Taunter or Stuffy Doll, just to be kind of funny with this. Order of Sacred Dusk. Convoke. Flying, lifelink, haste, exalted. Other vamps have exalted. All right. Sign me up. I already like flying, lifelink, and haste. has Convoke, so like the 8 mana investment's almost negligible. Exalted Angel kills people. I haven't seen someone play one of those in a long time, but I like to think this is slightly better. Like, Exalted Angel only costs 4 mana. Well, this is literally double, but if you already have 4 creatures in play, and since it has haste, you could use it the turn you play it, and you're not missing out on anything, essentially, by tapping down your stuff. Because it gives your whole board exalted, say you tap those 4 creatures, you swing with this, it gets +4/+4. So it becomes a 9/9 in that scenario. There's almost no drawback to playing something this high in CMC if you're in the right deck. Promise of Aclazotz. Sorcery Adventure, sack a non-demon. You do create a 4/3 white-black vamp demon. The 2-mana enchantment, when you have your end step, you may sack a non-demon creature. If you do, populate. So you're sacking something in exchange for another token. I guess you're exchanging upgrades. In that scenario. Seems like a very niche card. I think very few decks are going to want something like that. Master of the Dark Rites. Sack another creature, add triple black. It's like Dark Ritual, but you can only use it to cast Vampire Clerics and Demon Spells. That's a bit of a bummer. I think if it was just unconditional, this card would probably be like a $30 card, because it'll have a low printing in comparison to something like Dark Ritual. Dark Ritual has been reprinted, I don't know, hundreds of times at this point, but this is its first of its kind, so I think they put those things on there just so we don't have a $20 card in a commander deck. Dusk Legion Insurgent. If you sack it, each non-token vampire creature control gains persist on turn. Alright, it's a safety valve. I love creatures that protect your board at the same time, kind of like Selfless Spirit or Dauntless Escort, Boromir, the list goes on, but they don't make enough of these, especially if your game plan is to be aggressive, because the moment a board wipe happens, you've dumped your hand out and you got nothing left to do. Redemption Choir has lifelink and Coven. Coven is when you have 3 creatures with different powers. When it enters or attacks, you get to return target permanent with mana 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. That's sick. It's a Sun Titan trigger for 4 mana, but you have to meet the Coven requirement. If you're in a creature deck, shouldn't be too terribly hard to do, albeit it's situational. The trade-off of having the reduced cost, you have the Coven piece. Elenda's Hierophant. Whenever you gain life, put a +1/+1 on this. When it dies, create X 1/1 vampire tokens with lifelink. Or X is its power. It's an Elenda, but for 3 mana, it's not legendary. Charismatic Conqueror. Whenever an artifact or creature enters the battlefield untapped and under an opponent's control, they may tap that permanent. If they don't, you create a 1/1 vampire. If they had no intentions of blocking, I don't see why they wouldn't, but if they do, they leave themselves open to attack from you. So at least it's a lose-lose scenario. I kind of like this card. March of the Canonized. Enters the battlefield to create X vampires with lifelink. Beginning of your upkeep, if your devotion of white and black is 7 or greater, you create demon creature tokens with flying. I like X spells with tokens. There's not enough of them in Magic. Carmen Cruel Sky Marcher. Whenever player sacks a permanent, put a +1/+1 counter on this. Gain a life. When it attacks, return up to 1 target permanent with mana value less than or equal to the power from your graveyard to the battlefield. Damn.
How do you kill that which has no life?
This deck is going to be really grindy. I could tell already. Everything comes back from your graveyard from all the cards I've seen so far. You can't keep the vampires down and they grow pretty darn big. Black Market Connections? I don't know if you like that art or not. I think this card's a little overrated. The Weight of Revolution. I'm always paying 3 to make a treasure and draw a card. It kind of makes sense. You're making mana to play the extra cards that you're drawing, so you should minimally always pick at least those 2 abilities. The Indomitable. 4 mana 6/6 vehicle. Whenever a creature you control deals damage to player, draw a card. It's another Coastal Piracy, but it's a vehicle, and you can bring it back from your graveyard. That's kind of nice. As long as you control more pirates and vehicles. Very resilient. Francisco Foul Marauder. It's a bird. It's a bird. Can block whenever one or more pirates you control deal damage to a player. This explores. It also has Partner. Each creature you control as a skelly or pirate gets +1/+1. Whenever one or more creature cards leave your graveyard, create a 2/2 zombie. I love that trigger a lot. Things leaving your graveyard, it's kind of like Tormod. The Partner Commander. I get a lot of use out of that thing when I play it. Or Desecrate a Tomb and make bats. For 6 mana, you can return it from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. It won't cause it to trigger the zombie trigger because it's not in play, but it's pretty resilient. Gem Cutter Buccaneer. When it enters or a pirate enters, create a tap treasure token. Treasure you control are equipment. In addition to the other types, the equipped creature gets +2/+0. And equipped to a pirate, it's 1. Otherwise, it costs 3. The treasure that you're putting in a tap that you could use it as an equipment. It's like, why not? If you're playing a pirate deck, you'll probably have mana to spare to do that. Don Andres, the Renegade. Each creature you control but don't own gets +2/+2 menace and death touch, pirate and additional other types. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell you don't own, create 2 tap treasure tokens. Okay, so this is like a payoff for stealing stuff. Arm Mounted Anchor. That's pretty sick. Gets +2/+2 and menace. When it deals damage to a player, draw 2, then discard 2 unless you control a pirate. That seems pretty easy. Equip 2, cost 2 less active if you have 1 or fewer cards in hand. Hell yeah, I like this card a lot. That's really awesome. I don't know if I'd be willing to have an anchor thresh to my arm out of risk of it causing my own death, but this guy seems to think it's perfectly safe.
What's the worst that could happen?
Medicine Haste. It has Boast. Sacrifice another creature or artifact. It deals damage equal to 2+ sack permanents mana value to any target. If his deck's about stealing stuff, you could sacrifice their permanents and kind of 2-for-1 people with it. The Grim Captain's Locker. Man, this seems really expensive. 4 mana to play, 4 to give a creature escape for 4. I don't know, it just doesn't feel very mana efficient in my eyes. But if you want to do like the theme of pirate stuff, why not? Stormfleet Negotiator. Parlay. When it attacks, each player reveals the top card of the library. For each non-land card revealed this way, you create a map token. Then each player draws a card. That's a bit of a turnoff. I don't like helping my opponents. I'd probably never play this card. Thought Vessel's getting a full art treatment. Looks pretty sick. Mimic Vat is also getting a full art treatment. I don't see Mimic Vat as much as I would like to anymore. So that brings us to the end of the spoilers for tonight. I think this was just a deluge of all the commander cards since the decks were revealed. Something I want to mention, the commander decks only come with 10 unique cards to them. There'll be 8 unique cards not found in the commander decks, but they'll be like slotted into the collector boxes and they're going to be in the set boosters. You're going to be missing out on those cards. I don't typically buy decks like that. I have pretty much all the cards in the game that I could possibly need or want. I'm not going to go out and buy whole decks just so I can get access to 10 brand new cards. I'd rather just crack them in packs or trade for them or buy them. With how much Wizards pushes out, you could normally find signals at a pretty fair price. I think because of the Jurassic Park cards, it's going to drive the interest of cracking packs, and there's going to be a lot of stuff in circulation. If you have all the cards like me, then just do that. I think the people who buy these commander decks, either they don't know that there's only 10 unique cards in them, or they're a newish player and they don't have access to all those cards already. So that's who it's marketed for. I wouldn't pay a lot of money for them. The only commander products I buy is when there are 30+ unique cards in them. So like I bought the Doctor Who ones and I bought the Fallout ones. That's my sealed typical purchases. If you liked what you saw, I've been covering the entire Caverns of Ixalan spoilers. So stay tuned, subscribe so you don't miss anything. Go check out my other stuff. That's pretty awesome. I'd like to thank everyone who's watched, and I'd like to thank my subscribers as well. Everyone have a great night. Take care now. Bye.